So I have two questions here, but I would just leave it to you to make the comment. But the question one was, in this case, how can sports be at the same time a medicine and sometimes harmful, or something harmful, actually toxic
Hmm.
to some of us?
Hmm.
And also, because you mentioned people give up hope when they are low in spirit, and that's
Yes.
I wanted you to talk to me a little bit more about that. What do you mean by low in spirit? How would you describe that state? So yeah.
Well, the first question was relating to how could it be both? Well, we know it's both. When we feel like we're the winner of something, or maybe we didn't come in first, but we placed at our wrestling tournament,
Yeah.
and we put effort in, and we believed in ourselves. As I said before, you put it on a feedback loop and you can always improve. But what happens when it's like one wrestler I work with, I work with a lot of wrestlers. He was preparing using the mindful toughness skill sets that we had worked on, and he had his own plan of action, plan A, plan B, plan C.
Yeah.
But so now he's at the tournament, and at the very last minute, instead of wrestling at his weight class that he was assuming he would wrestle at, the coach said, "No, you're not wrestling at that weight class. You have to wrestle 2 weight classes higher, because this person who's ranked in the state, he has a chance of going to the state championship, and you don't." It was an implicit message. So he doesn't. He's not going. We're not going to have him wrestle today. So you have to take his place. And so how do you think that spirit felt? He had his plans of action. And the last thing the coach said to him is he's walking out onto the wrestling mat for his competition. Meantime, 2 weight classes higher. The coach said, "Well, whatever you do, stay off your back," which means that, you see, if you're pinned in a wrestling match, then the team loses points,
Yeah.
right? So he spent all his time staying off his back, used none of his plans of action, plan A, plan B, plan C, and he lost the match by a large margin, but the team didn't get the big loss of a lot of points taken off because of the pin. So then the next week, he came to my office with his dad, who was a retired police officer. And he came into my office. I had a private office in the waiting room. So he came into my office and he's telling me, I said, "How did it go?" And he said, "This is what happened." I said, "How did you feel?" "Oh, I felt terrible. I felt horrible. And then I lost my match." But we went through it and we said, "So what were you thinking? What were you feeling?" We put it on the feedback loop so he could process it. And then, so we worked through it with imagery and he got through it. But he did talk about some other matches he had that day that he won. So he felt good about those. We put those in the feedback loop as well. And so now we're going back out into the waiting room, and his father was sitting there and he said, "Well, did you tell Dr. Silverstein about that great way that you did that for the team, give up for the Gipper," which is a famous expression meaning that you give up yourself to your teammates so your teammates can win. And he just looked at his dad, and it was really kind of sad, but knowing. So he said, "But Dad, what about the 2 matches I won?" Like that.
Yeah.
And his dad didn't know what to say, but he felt really sad. But the thing that really improved for him is that his dad wanted him not to work after school, because he was very brilliant, this young man, and he was studying to be a mathematician from an early grade. So anyway, he said, your grades are going to fall if you work with your friend in the fast food restaurant nearby." So he looked at his dad and he said, "Dad, I already applied. I'm starting to work on Monday." And he said, "And I have to work." He said, because he was just getting his license. Right? So he said, "Dad, do you know how much gasoline is?" So I need to work. And so he went out and he got a job. So he did stand up for himself. And that's what he learned. It wasn't about the wrestling mat so much as it was for his self-esteem and to stand up for himself and to his dad. right? So I had to laugh at that one because of how he responded, because we had talked about what to say to his father when he got out there in the waiting room.
Right.
But that's the idea that was winning in his sense. And he decided right then that he wasn't going to quit the high level math course because he liked it. He was had friends from early grades. He was going to stick with it and study math in college to be a mathematician. So he decided on that day to do that as well. So that's winning on many different levels, even though he lost that match and it was beyond his control. He just did the best he could.
Yeah. So that's why you say it's winning in life, right, Christine?
Yes,
It's
winning in life. Hmm.